What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss the latest on Apple and OpenAI's partnership and why Microsoft is getting jealous, an update on iOS 17.5.1, even more iOS 18 leaks, OLED MacBooks are on the way, and perhaps the craziest AirTag story we've ever had here on the channel. And as always, if you want to stay in the loop with everything going on in the world of Apple, including all of the iOS 18 coverage, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Okay, so let's start with even more iOS 18 news, because yesterday I posted a full video talking about Siri 2.0 and some of the latest iOS 18 AI leaks and rumors that were brand new. We had never covered those before, but in this video I want to talk about even more iOS 18 features and leaks that we have not discussed yet here on the channel. And these come from Mark Gurman, and he said that iOS 18 will allow you to change the color of app icons and also place applications wherever you want on the screen. And that right there reminds me of the good old jailbreak days where you can move your app icons to wherever you want on the screen. So if you only wanted to have applications down the middle of your screen, you can do that. And also it looks like we might be able to skin the color of these app icons. So it doesn't sound like we're going to get full, custom app icons. We're still going to have to go through shortcuts for that most likely, but we might be able to theme or kind of mask these icons with a specific color to match the maybe wallpaper that you have on your device, which could be pretty interesting, and that's a first step for Apple. He also mentions that we're going to have generative AI for emojis, so you're going to be able to create custom emojis on the fly based on what you're typing. So this is interesting, and we talked about this a little bit in yesterday's video as well, but I'm really curious to see how that works. If it's going to pop up in the text prediction, inline there, or what. It's really going to be curious to see, and that's the good thing about these iOS 18 leaks, software leaks in general, is that we can hear everything we want, but actually seeing it in the software is going to be completely different, and it's going to be a big surprise to everybody. He then goes on to say Siri is expected to get an overhaul and be more natural sounding, but for the Apple Watch, there's a more advanced Siri coming, which will assist in on-the-go tasks. So that is intentionally very vague. We don't really know, what that means. A more advanced Siri just for the Apple Watch doesn't really seem like it makes a lot of sense. You would think it would be on the iPhone, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. We are going to get a better Siri for the Apple Watch though, which is great news. And if you're a developer, he said that developer tools, including Xcode, will be getting AI enhancements that will help you code more efficiently. And then lastly, he mentions that new AI tools will deeply integrate into apps like Safari, Photos, and Notes, and that the AI push also includes operating system features such as enhanced notifications. And then speaking of iOS 18, we have to talk about Apple's partnership with OpenAI, because we never got official confirmation that the deal had been closed, but just this week it seems like it has been closed, at least according to a new report from The Information. They said that in mid-2023, Apple met with OpenAI and they eventually secured a deal to use OpenAI's APIs for internal testing. And in those tests, Apple engineers connected ChatGPT to Siri, creating impressive demos of Siri handling complex queries. So The Information confirms that OpenAI and Apple do have an active deal as of this week. And we'll discuss why that makes Microsoft nervous or concerned later on in this episode. Now, also this week, Apple released a new firmware update for the AirPods Pro 2nd generation. So if you have the AirPods Pro 2, you will notice that you have a new firmware update. And as you probably know by now, these updates happen automatically in the background. You are not notified when your firmware gets updated. But if you go into the section here in settings, if you go into your AirPods here and then go all the way down to the bottom, you will see that the new version number is 6F7. I don't believe I've ever seen just a 3-character version number, but we have 6F7 as the version, and the case version is 54.26.1. Now, I've been using this new update for a while, and I've not noticed any change from the previous update. And of course, Apple doesn't share anything that's new. They just say bug fixes and improvements, but I never had any bugs and I've not noticed anything different. But if you do have the AirPods Pro 2 and you did notice a difference with 6F7, let me know in a comment down below. Also this week, we saw the launch of a new pro video camera application called Kino. Now, this comes from the same company behind Halide, which is a great application application, and this is for video specifically. So it allows you to basically control everything with your iPhone's camera, and it's awesome. The onboarding of it is pretty cool as well. You can see how it has this really cool animation like you're opening up a book here, just to show you how it works with all the Pro Tools and everything. Now, the best part about this application is that you can apply LUTs like actively while you're recording. You can see the LUT in action, and you can see here what the application looks like. And if you tap on the button down in the bottom right hand corner, you have these different LUTs, and you'll see that they apply automatically. You can see what your live video feed is going to look like with these different LUTs, and then you just tap on apply and it applies. And just the whole application in general, the UI up top, everything here just looks awesome. It's a very unique application and definitely something I will be trying out over the Blackmagic camera, which is what I used previously. Also, the Carrot Weather application got a big update to version 6.0 this past week, and it has a whole new UI that they call the Blooming Garden layout. And this has it features a garden that grows and changes over time, and you can see what that looks like here. So I'm going to enable it, and you can see that we have this really cool animation, this really cool garden they call it, that is right here underneath of the temperature. I really like the look of this. I love the Carrot application, so I'm always a sucker for when they announce new features. So it has a new look, new layout options, weather news, yesterday's temperature, also 5 new secret locations, a new icon set, and improved iPad and Mac layouts. We also got news of the upcoming Apple Watch special event for June, and this is set for June 5th, and this is the Running Day Challenge. So to complete this challenge, you have to wear your Apple Watch and record a running workout of at least 5 kilometers on June 5th, and then you will get that special achievement, that special badge. Now, I also wanted to talk about the YouTube application on Apple TV, because they just recently added a feature where they would have a screensaver that overwrites or just goes over top of the Apple TV aerial screensaver, which is my favorite, and that drove me crazy, that drove everybody crazy, and now it looks like YouTube has reversed their decision, and basically it does not show their screensavers anymore. And this was done server side. It did not require an app update or a software update to the Apple TV. So if you had that issue, if you were really mad at YouTube for taking over your TV with their screensavers, worry no more, that is gone. Now, moving on to iOS 17.5.1 and iOS 17.6 Beta 1, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But 17.5.1 is the latest software version as of the time of recording this. And, nothing has been changed in 17.5.1 aside from the bug that has been fixed, where Apple fixed the, deleted photos reappearing bug. So photos that were potentially saved in the Files application and the Photos application, if you deleted it from the Photos but not the Files, some of those pictures from a long time ago would come back in lower quality into your camera roll. But it was not related to iCloud. It was not a security or a privacy threat. It was only related to those photos that you didn't actually delete in the Files application. Now, ever since that update came out, it's been absolute crickets about this issue. I've not heard anybody else having the issue. I would imagine it was a very, very small subset of people that actually had this issue to begin with. If I had to guess a percentage, it would definitely be less than 1% of people who had this bug on iOS 17.5, but we saw all the clickbait articles out there, so Apple did have to address this swiftly with 17.5.1. But as far as the actual software itself, it's basically identical to 17.5. Like, I see a lot of people saying it fixed battery, it fixed this, it fixed that. I mean, it could have, but I highly doubt it. I mean, this update really did nothing at all to the software aside from address that bug. So the performance, the battery life, exactly the same as 17.5. Even when I ran the Geekbench test, and now that I've been testing battery life, everything is virtually identical to iOS 17.5. Okay, so now let's talk about iOS 17.6 Beta 1 and what to expect next. So I have no idea when iOS 17.6 Beta 1 is getting released. Nobody has any idea when 17.6 Beta 1 is getting released. We've said for the past 2 weeks that it was a possibility for it to be released, but we have not seen that. So the next possible date is going to be Tuesday, June 4th. That is when we could see iOS 17.6 Beta 1 get released to beta testers. But at that point, I don't think anybody's really going to be too excited about 17.6 Beta 1. It's probably not going to include much. And plus, just the next week, probably less than a week by the time that comes out, we'll see iOS 18 Beta 1. So any beta testers are probably going to ditch, iOS 17 betas and just hop on the iOS 18 betas, myself included. But nonetheless, we could see a 17.6 Beta 1 1 on June 4th, but again on June 10th is when we will see iOS 18 beta 1. And this is important because this will only be available to developers. So make sure you are on the developer beta. The public beta for iOS 18 typically comes out about a month after the developer, not 24 hours or not the next day like some of these, recent betas. It's usually about a month later. So we talked earlier about how OpenAI and Apple apparently already have a deal secured where they're using OpenAI's APIs to run, with Siri in iOS 18. Well, now it looks like Microsoft is concerned about the partnership because they also have a deal with OpenAI, and they provide the tech behind Microsoft Copilot, which we talked about last week, while Microsoft lets OpenAI use its data centers to power ChatGPT. They also invested, I think it was like $10 billion with a B into OpenAI. So clearly Microsoft has, big money into OpenAI, and they're competing now directly with one of Microsoft's biggest competitors, which is Apple. And more specifically, Microsoft is worried about handling the demand for servers when Apple launches new features and also when they announce the new iPhone 16 and 16 Pro later this year. That can really, put a damper on the servers. So basically, OpenAI is now dating Siri, and Microsoft and Copilot are jealous of that new relationship. Okay, so we all know that we just got OLED on the new iPad Pro, but we might be seeing OLED come to the MacBook Pro next. So according to the research firm Omdia, Apple is highly likely to incorporate OLED into its MacBook Pro models as early as 2026. This move could spark a significant surge in OLED demand within the notebook market, potentially reaching over 60 million units by 2031. So that sounds promising, and 2026 is not really as far away as it seems. So first it was the iPad Pro, and then next it looks like it's either going to be the iPad Mini, which we did hear about the iPad Mini getting OLED, or this MacBook Pro. I don't think the MacBook Air is ever going to get OLED because that's always going to be the entry level for Apple MacBooks. And then speaking of iPads, future iPads might actually feature a landscape Apple logo. So this is a possibility according to an Apple product designer who was interviewed by French site Numerama. So she said, quote, "I think this could change. We are thinking about it. The iPad has long been a product that is used in portrait mode, but we are increasingly using it in landscape mode. We can't say it's fixed." So in the 2024 iPad Pro and iPad Air, and also in the previous iPad 10th generation, we saw that front-facing camera get put on the landscape side. So could the Apple logo on the back be the next thing that goes on the landscape? It kind of looks weird in the mock-ups, but I don't know. What do you think? And then finally, let's talk about perhaps the craziest AirTag story I've ever covered in Apple Weekly. And this is not even directly related to an AirTag, but an AirPod instead. But it still uses the Find My application. It's still the same premise, so that's why I want to cover it in this episode. So it all starts with a 15-year-old boy in Florida who is riding his bike up the street to buy ice cream around 10:30 at night. And unfortunately, he was not wearing a helmet, but as he was pulling in, a driver heading in the opposite direction veered over and hit him. He was hit so hard that his head crashed through the rear passenger side window, breaking his nose, cheekbone, and eye socket and knocking him unconscious. The driver then pulled the teen out of the road where he was hit while he was laying unconscious, sat him outside the gas station, and drove away. And once he woke up, I would assume that other people called the paramedics. He was taken by helicopter to a hospital and treated for his injuries, which also included a deep gash in his knee that required 15 staples to close. What the driver didn't know was that the teen was wearing AirPods when he was hit, and one of those AirPods was knocked out of his ear and got lodged under the floor mat inside of the car. So why is this important? Well, because the AirPods also are able to be tracked just like an AirTag in the Find My application. So once he regained conscience in the hospital and realized that an AirPod was missing from his case, he pulled up the Find My application and called police because he noticed that his AirPod was at the suspect's house about 4 miles away. And sure enough, police arrested the 49-year-old man who told them he fled because he had served prison time on drug charges and just panicked. He was charged with a felony count of failing to stop at the scene of a crash with great bodily injury, which can get you 15 years in prison, but his low-life self already posted the $150,000 bond. But without that AirPod getting forced out of his ear from the impact from that rear window, this man might have never been charged. And that is an insane story. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's Apple Weekly episode.